Hello and welcome into another edition of Sitting Down with Sgar. I'm your host, the voice of Hoya football, Jeremy Huber, joined by head coach Rob Sgarlata. And it's a happy Coach Sgarlata coming off a 43-12 win over Marist. Coach, I know you're one of those guys. Hey, if we get the win, you're always going to be happy. Obviously, it was a good day up in New York for your team.
Yeah, it's always good to go up and, in the opener on the road and be able to put together a complete ball game. Very happy with a lot of things on offense, defense, especially in the special teams, and also coming out of the opener, lots of things that we targeted and worked on all week this week as we're preparing for Lehigh.
And it's funny, Coach. We talked about last year. One of the detriments of this team was not only the run game never got going the way you wanted it to, but you guys maybe uncharacteristically had trouble stopping the run. I thought against the Red Foxes, you guys did both pretty well.
Yeah, it all starts and stops up front. Anytime that you can run for over 200 yards and hold somebody to around 50 in a day, probably a pretty good day. Very, very excited about the way we finished the game. Had about 13 minutes of possession in the fourth quarter, ran the ball most of the quarter and finished it with a turnover by Webner Cadet as an interception to kind of finish the game on defense. So happy with a lot of things, happy with a lot of the progress, and just looking forward to seeing what we can do to keep building on that this weekend.
And Josh Stakely had himself a game over 100 yards. I believe he's the first running back for you guys to go over 100 yards since himself a couple seasons ago. What was he doing so well? Obviously, the line blocked it well, but there's a talent to this. You got to see the holes when they're there. What was he doing well in that matchup?
Josh runs extremely hard and downhill, and very tough to bring down in this game with some of the gap scheme stuff that we were running for him. I know Josh had big numbers. Herman Moultrie also had a great first half and put together some great runs and did a great job catching the ball out of the backfield. So anytime that we can add those weapons out of the backfield with our receiving core and with Pierce Holly's arm, I think that makes it hard to defend us overall.
And you mentioned Pierce and maybe not the eye popping stats in the game, but we talked earlier and efficiency was a key for you. You thought he played a really efficient game.
Yeah, anytime that you have over 20 completions in a game, you're probably doing some things very well. Pierce did a good job in the game plan of doing what we asked him to do. We knew there'd be in a lot of post coverages and try to eliminate some of the deep throws. So he took what they were going to give us, and I think that really helped us to be balanced and be able to run the ball extremely well and throw it when we needed to.
Talking with Rob Sgarlata, head coach of the Georgetown Hoyas, coming off their win 43-12 against Marist last week. And coach, defensively, I thought you guys looked good, but you had some contributions for some of those younger guys. You talked about it earlier. Again, I know Coach Doherty's big on getting a lot of guys in, especially early in the season. It felt like anytime a younger guy came in, they really stepped up.
Yeah, it's great to see. Everybody knows that Justin Fontenot has been a great player for us and is wearing a 35 this year. And to see him help bring along Jaden Brown, who's a freshman in his first start playing at linebacker, those are the things that I think are really important. The team played up front and played right next to IB, Ibrahim Kamara. And, to see that happen in our team, it credits two things. One is the summer program, with our coaches doing a great job of working with our players over the summer and our strength coaches, and also just the team culture with, our guys understanding that it's going to take every class we have from our fifth year to our freshman to be successful. And it was really good to see those guys come and play at a very high level in an opener. And it's because of them, but it's also because of the people around them that are supporting them and helping them, bringing them along into our systems.
Rob, you talked about the offense. We talked about the defense. The special teams came up big, especially in the punting game. Brock Biestek, with the player of the week, special teams wise in the Patriot League, had the block punt, had 4 tackles on special teams, which honestly might be even more impressive. Talk about him and really both units as a whole.
Yeah, we've challenged our players. We want to make sure that the guys are on our special teams. We call them our special forces. Are very talented and understand their role in the game. It's a third of the game. And we put a lot of time into it. So Brock had a great game doing that. He also played well at receiver. So, we are putting that challenge out to every class, from our fifth years to our freshmen, is that's a huge competition to get on the special forces. And it was great to see those guys make an impact. He had a block, Matt Plunkett had a block, and Jimmy Kibble, another one of our very talented freshmen, picked it up and scored. So, hopefully we can continue to build some momentum through our special teams and having those guys continue to show up as impact players.
Complete team win up in New York. Now you have a conference game coming in this week with Lehigh. I think we talked about this before. I'm going to ask it again so the folks at home can get your answer. Do you like playing a conference game this early? I know it's been a long time for you guys since you've had this type of early season game in conference. What are your thoughts on playing it now?
Nothing better than coming home and playing on Cooper Field at 5 p.m. So it's great to be home. It's great. This weekend is a Cooper Field dedication. So there's a huge amount of our alums and Hoya football family that are coming back. It's going to be a great weekend here on the hilltop. So anytime that we can play in front of our home crowd against a great league opponent, especially in a night game, there's nothing better. Having it early in the season, we haven't done this in a while. We used to have it when we first got in the conference to kind of balance out the schedule with Holy Cross early. But I think it'll give us a gauge of where we are, and it's a great challenge. Every game within the league, we just talk about trying to go 1-0 each week, and this week will be no different against Lehigh.
Coach, the Lehigh series, if you look at the base numbers of it, okay, look, it's lopsided for the Mountain Hawks, but last few years, this has been one of those tooth and nail type games. Again, I feel like your guys feel that, hey, we are the equal to this Lehigh team, and they're looking for a win in this one, correct?
I would say this within the league. I would say every coach is saying the same thing. You can win all of them. You can be in tight games and lose all of them. The league is very, very even, and there's a lot of parity. It's how well you prepare. And, I would say this in this series, this is a game for us that, we want to come out and show everybody in the Patriot League what we have. We're really not worried about the opponent at the bottom of the sheet. I know that sounds a lot like coaching talk and everything else, but if we play well Saturday, we'll win. If we don't, we make some of the mistakes that we didn't correct this week from last weekend, we won't. And if you look at Lehigh's game against Villanova, they played really well at times. Villanova's a very talented ball club, but Lehigh did some great stuff on offense, defense, and in the kicking game. They led the nation in block punts last year. Anytime that you're facing a Tommy Gilmore coach team, I know two things. One, they're going to come out and try and play extremely physical, and two, they're going to play all four quarters. So we're preparing for that, and hopefully we can come out and put our best foot forward at home with our first Patriot League game of the season.
Talented team with a talented quarterback and Dante Perry. Again, what are some things that maybe you have to be leery of taking on a team led by a signal caller like that?
Yeah, Perry did a great job at the end of the year last year. Really directly contributed to their success with them winning their last three. And he stresses you in a couple of ways. He can run the football, and he did a good job of doing that against Villanova, and also throws the ball extremely well. So it's not last year for him. He's got some experience under his belt, and you can see that. So that'll be a challenge for our defense throughout the night.
Rob, I know for you, it's abundantly clear. It's not keys that really change between teams. There's core foundational pieces for your squad. What are some keys to coming away with a win against the Mountain Hawks on Saturday?
Yeah, every practice and every game we talk about three things. It's kind of our win formula. The first one is just taking care of the football. Today was all about the ball. Thursday, take care of the ball and force takeaways. Second one for us is explosives. We want to create explosives, on offense in the special teams game with the block kicks or big returns. And on defense, obviously, we want to play great assignment, football and pursuit of the ball to eliminate explosives. And then the final thing is just tackling and forcing missed tackles. Early in the season, it's one of the biggest concerns I have, just because preseason camp, you don't get to go as much live as you used to. And it's always something that it takes you 2 or 3 games to really amp that up. So we've tried to drill it in every way we can. So we're ready for it. But, having the ability to make somebody miss and having the ability to get people on the ground are going to be huge in this game. The yards after contact from both teams is going to be really telling, especially in the run game.
Coach, before we get into some of the off the field things your Hoyas are thriving in, one that kind of takes us there. We were talking beforehand, you mentioned a SISU play. Obviously, SISU is a big part of what you've built this program on. What do you consider a SISU play if you're trying to explain that to a Hoya fan?
There's going to be 7 or 8 plays in the game, and you don't know when they're going to happen, and that's where the game turns, and those are SISU plays for us. For us, we had a big 4th down stop, big sack by Mateen in the red zone. which was just a huge momentum play for our defense. And obviously the block kicks. The block kicks are huge. Anytime that you can block a kick, anytime that you can block two and one for a touchdown, your win percentages go through the roof. So you never know when those plays are going to occur, when the game is on the line, but they come, and we want to make sure our players are ready for that when it happens. So we chart those and we talk about those as being our, the game breakers for us in our SISU plays.
Well, speaking of SISU, we move on to our SISU Spotlight, where we take a look at some of the great things Coach Sgarlata's crew is doing off the field. And first off, one to talk about Be the Match, which is a really important thing with your program. Kevin Doherty's done such a great job when it comes to some of the charitable things you guys do. This is bone marrow donation. You're trying to find folks that match up and maybe can help save some lives. I know Coach D told me that statistically, I think last year you guys helped save 6 lives from the numbers when you kind of plot it out. Talk about Be the Match and why it's one of those important things to your program.
Yeah, I think it's great to talk about this today. Every Thursday we talk with the players about it being a thankful Thursday. We challenge them to make sure you reach out to somebody here on campus, somebody at home, but make sure that you're showing some gratitude and being thankful to someone else who's really gotten you where you are. Coach Doherty does a great job with, our third pillar in the program, Men and Women for Others. So this is the 5th year that we've been involved with Be the Match. We've had over 1,300 people register, in the bone marrow registry. And we've had 2 donors, one a coach from us and one of our former players. So, when you look at the statistics and you look at the impact that you can have from something so simple, and this was started by Andy Talley, the coach emeritus up at Villanova, and we've really gotten on board with what they're doing. So one of the great things Coach Doherty did this year was it wasn't just football in the effort. And I give Lee Reed the credit for this as well, with building a program where the other teams really want to get involved with us. So we had, upwards of 13 other teams help us with the registry and help us with 3 days here on Georgetown's campus. So definitely something that we'll continue to do. And, Coach Doherty is a huge driver of these things. And honestly, he doesn't get enough credit for it. He does a great job organizing it and making sure that's a big part of our program.
And he also coordinates a pretty daggone good defense for you. So that's not a bad thing either. Coach, the other thing I want to ask you about was the 17 community scholar students, which is a big program for Georgetown. From what I gather, a lot of it is kind of first generation students and making sure their transition to Georgetown kind of goes smoothly so they can kind of achieve their best. And it's a big thing for your program because it seems like it really helps some of these guys coming in to make their Georgetown experience go well. Can you talk about that and how important it's been to the program?
Yeah, I think you go back to the base premise. There's 850 student athletes at Georgetown, and it's a huge part of the population here. And when you talk about the Georgetown experience, it's not just what happens in McDonough Arena with us, or at Cooper Field, or in the Thompson Athletic Center. We have incredible partners across campus. Charlene Brown McKenzie and Davida Vishendot are 2 of the people that run the Community Scholars Program. And honestly, it was started to make sure that the opportunity at Georgetown was there for everyone, whether your parents went to college or what your background was or what the high school you came from was. So, when you look at what it's supposed to be here, an opportunity for everybody that's can do the work here and have the ability to be here for 4 years and set themselves up for the next 40 years of their life. The Community Scholars Program sets up a summer program where it focuses not only on your personal development, but how you adjust to school, how you deal with tutors, how you deal with your classes, and provides a community within the Georgetown community that, it's often referred to here as the spirit of Georgetown. And to me, it's one of the best things that we have at school. And it's awesome to have our kids have access to that and that community throughout their freshman year here. And it follows them through their 4 years and as graduates as well.
Well, that's a good place to wrap it up. Rob, again, thank you for joining us today. If you want to check out the Hoyas, 5 o'clock Eastern kickoff on Saturday as they take on Lehigh, conference rival, opening up conference play. Also, if you want to catch the game, Patriot League on ESPN, the place to find it. So again, for head coach Rob Sgarlata, Rob, thank you again.
Thanks, Jeremy.
I'm Jeremy Huber saying so long. This has been another edition of Sitting Down with Sgar. And we say goodbye and Hoya Saxa.